Nou ja, hier sit ons. Dinsdag maand. Gisterand was nog al 'n snaakse storie. En my connection het gedrop net voor ek die show wou eindig. Toe het Herman daar gesit en hy het maar gewag geduldig en toe kom ek na 'n ruk weer terug. Toe het ek en hy nog in beseringstyd aangegaan. Ek weet nou nie, maar dit het vir my so gelyk as so 175 mense wat gekyk het hier in beseringstyd. Maar op die einde was dit nog 'n lekker gesprek. So ek sê naam vir almal van julle, ek het vanaand wingman, Reinier van, hy bly in Qatar, hy kom van Suid-Afrika af. Hy sê ou wat nogal 'n lekker kakstook op Twitter, ek hou van sy goed en hy trek nie die punches nie, hy gooi hulle ook, maar so hy maak skouers oop, so ek en hy gaan 'n bietjie gesels oor goetertjies op Twitter en hoe dit hy daar in Qatar vind en wat sulke dinge baie interessant. Hy het 'n vriend wat in die Donbass fight vir die Oekraïners. Hy sê die ou het die verkeerde kant gefok en piek, maar daai man blykbaar vir hom 'n paar rillers vertel van wat die volk gaan regtig daar aan hoor. So, dat ons maar hoor. Ek sien Boersien om bloot sê generaal Koos Dellery is op 22 Oktober 1847 in Winburg distrik gebore. Okay. Maar dankie vir daai info. En dan sien ek iemand het gesê ja, nou Marisa is wonderig en daarna baie. O ja, Nicolien Wensel. Sy sê alles al van 3 uur vanoggend sonder krag. So gevolg van die oorstromings, so fok op. Maar ek moet vir julle regtig sê, ek het nou weer vandag 'n artikel gelees van hoeveel miljoene hierdie bliksemse vloerplanke gesteel het by Suid-Afrika. Dit is fucking skrikwekkend wat hulle in die laaste 5 jaar net deur die SOE's gedoen het. Dis vreeslike fucking bedrag. Gaan ek maar van die standpunt af uit, okay, is maar reg, laat die fucking infrastruktuur wegspoel en vergaan. Dan hoef hulle nie geld te spandeer om die goed in stand te hou nie, want daar is daar nie. Dan luister ek na daai Kreersdorp kakspul met die letterlike kakspul wat al hulle stront in die water dronk, want niks van die sewage plants of fucking pompe werk nie. Ja, nee, is lekker hoor. Gaan lekker. Stefan sê, goeienaand uit die Lekkewaan kasteel. Jep. Hier by my is dit maar koud hoor, 17 grade, maar ek het dan vanmiddag weer so vinnig 'n vlaaggie van 3,5 mm gehad, so. Ja, dis nou amper 30 mil vir die 2 dae. Dis lekker hoor. Wel, Christo, ek het julle het my Brics gesien wat ek oorlooi gemaak het. Dis soos ek al voel. Al wat ek vir jou kan sê is, boere, hulle gaan mekaar nou onder die bus begin en bliksem, jy moet nou watch vir daai ding hoor. Hulle gaan hulle mekaar onder die bus begin ingooi. Nou kan die sports uitkom, want ek sien daar is al klaar roemers van groot bedrag geld wat vir sekere staatsamptenare gegee is. Groot bedrag. So, let the show begin. Daar gaan nou kak uitkom. Kyk, dit is ou taktiek daai. Ek ken daai stories. Ek het 'n vorige lewe gehad. So 'n klomp van hulle skielik te gryp en in dieselfde te bliksem. Tjoef tjaf, dan begin die staatsgetuies uitkom. Dan wil hulle almal net 'n fucking deal maak. Erik Bortje sê ek en my vrou moes Pretoria toe gaan om 'n kar te koop. Ek kom van die Noord-Kaap af, ek dink iemand moet daai water van julle laat toets, iets proesnaaks daar. Ja, ek glo jou hoor. André Lou sê, ysterfontein is in die huis. Nou ja, jeslik. Die plein word vanaf vol hoor. Kaptein sê, right, sy gaan nou vlieg hoor. Die ouens wat nou moet kom, ek gaan nog vir julle eendag 'n foto van ons plein wys hoor. Julle weet nie waar in ry julle nie. Die meisies is op diens hoor. Hulle maak seker dat julle reg is. Almal gemaklik is. Maar nou ja. Sorry dat ek nou stil was, ek probeer net kyk dat ek nou hoor wat sê Stefan. Ja, Stefan. Dink ook so. Ai. Kyk, dink maar mense nie, daar's 'n moersklomp mense wat dit nie mooi verstaan nie. Kyk, daar's ouens wat daai pakkies gekoop het en wat geld gekry het. Daar sou hulle baie geld gekry. Hulle moet net verstaan. Daai liquidators gaan kom vir daai geld hoor. Hulle gaan kom vir daai geld. Hulle soek alles terug. Nou nie om die krediteure happy te kry nie. Hulle soek net terug dat hulle kan steel daai geld, maar jy moet nie dink as jy 'n payment gekry, jy's home safe nie. Fuck dit. Hulle gaan jou kom haal. Hulle soek daai geld terug. Hulle gaan vir jou sê, jy moet 'n eis insit teen die boedel. Ken ek nie daai kak nie. Ja, nou lees ek net so vinnig, ek het nog nie tyd gehad om die details te check nie. Lees ek net, die DA het nou 'n backfall te sê oor wat buffelneus kwyt geraak het daar by Brics. Dan vra ek myself net af. Julle is mos deel van die GNU. Waar is die DA afgevaardigdes? Hoekom was hulle nie fucking daar nie? Ons weet mos hoekom was hulle nie daar nie. Hulle wou mos vir Putin gearresteer het. Lekker joke. Lekker joke. Okay, die B-52 sê hy is aan diens. Hy patrolleer. Al wat ek vir julle kan sê, ja, Stefan, my skoonma het ook kwai geskep met daai kiebisse hoor. Ek het nou nog kiebis glase hier by my in die huis, man. Nou, Wim, nee, jy's reg. Solank jy die binnekant kan sien, is jy reg, man. Jy betyds, altyd betyds. Maar ek moet vir julle sê, ek is moedig oor daai hoeveelhede geld wat ek sien wat so gesteel word. Ek kyk na die goed wat in Kazan aan die gang is. En ek vra vir myself, okay. Dit lyk nie lekker vir die Weste nie. En dan kyk ek, Cyril sit daar. Wydsbeen oor die draad, dropper in die hol. En ek dink, hy dink. Die ander Brics ouens weet dit nie. Hulle weet dit donders goed. Ek wil iets probeer vanaand. Ek wil ietsie probeer vanaand. Dat ek net sien, hoe werk dit nou? Of ek het kan doen, voordat ek nou hoog opgewonde raak. Dat ons kyk of het werk. Ja, kom ons kyk of het werk. Julle kan vir my sê of dit vir julle werk. Wil iets probeer. Dawie het die met my gedeel. Ek hoop julle kan sien daar. Global News wat rapporteer, Russian President Putin declares Iran a fully fledged member of Brics. Ietsie om 'n gedagte te hou. Ek dink dit is interessant daai. Sê vir my of julle daai ding kon sien. Naand Kobus. Ja, Hierdie is reg. Stefan sê hy vertrou eerder 'n vloerplank voor hy die DA of 'n Zionis vertrou. Ek stem nogal met jou saam. Jemima sê daar is baie mense in Pretoria wat glad nie meer die kraanwater drink nie. Ek dink jy sal fucking stupid wees as jy kraanwater enige plek en enige stad drink. Okay, JC praat van 'n roof wat maandag 12 uur gebeur het. Iemand is doodgeskiet en nog niks op die nuus gehoor nie. Ja. Ja, logies, ek wens hy shit so Johnny het Kazan toe gegaan. Ek sal hom sien hoe fucking lekker is, wil sien hoe draf hy uit daar ergens in 'n gulag daar in Siberië. Bliksem. Maar ek gaan nou vir julle iets sê wat julle nou maar moet dink. Ek gaan nou eers nog vir my skyflight. Dan gaan ek nou hier vir julle 'n bietjie ietsie vertel. Waaroor julle moet mooi fucking net sit en dink. Julle moet mooi dink oor die kak waarin Suid-Afrika is. Hey, soos oor die 300, laat die meisies hulle rond begin doen voor ek begin met my stories pratery. Dat ek nou net my dinge mooi agter mekaar kry. Ons sit in Suid-Afrika met 'n baie ongemaklike situasie. Die breër publiek en die oorgrote politiese gemeenskap is pro-Brics. Maar dan sit ons met die DA en hulle Zioniste toutrekkers en paymasters wat anti-Brics is. So, polities is die meerderheid Brics, maar ekonomies en finansiëel is hulle anti-Brics, die groepering wat daar ran. Nou, kyk na die volgende kak. Ons reservebank is 'n privaat bank. Hy behoort aan privaat mense. En XXX sê die majority shares in die ding. Die Rothschilds besit daai ding. Nog erger, daai reservebank besit groot blokke aandele in die ander 5 groot banke. So vir alle praktiese doeleindes besit en beheer die Rothschilds Suid-Afrika se finansiële backbone. Dan het ons nou hierdie situasie waar ek nou die dag gepraat het, dat PASA, dis die Payment Association of South Africa, hulle mag nou nie meer die fintech environment beheer, want ek sien my shotgun is in, ek sal hom nou op die skerm sit, want ja, nou het ek my storie verloor. Maar die feit van die saak bly, daai reservebank, ja, PASA kan nou nie meer nie, want hulle sê PASA is nie onpartydig nie, die FVCA gaan dit nou reël. Gaan nou beheer vat oor die fintech environment. Nou sit ons met hierdie realiteit. Luister baie fucking mooi. 'n privaat bank, 'n privaat organisasie. Hulle kry nou wetgewende reg, want hulle sê vir die fucking regering watse wette het hulle nodig vir die finansiële sirkel, en die regering sê dit in. So 'n privaat bank, privaat organisasie het nou wetgewende gesag. Nou met hierdie FSCA wat onder die fucking Reservebank se beheer is, het hulle nou ook uitvoerende gesag. So manne, maak julle self reg. Ons gaan gefok word sideways. Want die Qatari en XXX het full control oor ons financial realm. En Buffelneus is te fucking useless draadsitter om te doen wat gedoen moet word. Hy kan nie, want hulle het hom by die knaters. So, my boodskap aan julle vanaand, as jy skuld het jy kak, groter kak as wat jy kan imagine, en maak jouself reg, dat hulle ons verder gaan opfok, as hulle nou daai, ek dink is die Goftie fucking wet deurkry. En waar is die politicians wat hieroor moet praat? Nee, die bliksems wil 'n fight opsit oor die taalbeleid van Bella. Maar hulle praat fokol oor die graad 5, graad R, riemrik kompetisies. Dis die wêreld waarin ons leef. Dis die land waarin ons leef. Dink oor dit. Nou laat ek my shotgun inbring.
Hello.
Reiner.
How are you, Colin?
I'm all right. I need you. I think you should tilt your camera a little bit. It looks like you're peeping over the windowsill.
Oh, sorry. Like that? Down or up?
Just a little bit more.
There we
Yeah,
go.
yeah. That's better.
Much better. Sorry about that. I don't use it too often. How's it going?
All right, then. Let me introduce you to the people. This is my friend from Twitter, Reiner, and you can see his his nickname there on the screen. He's not taking it in small bites, but Reiner is quite active on Twitter, and me and him had a few scraps way back in the past. But the fact of the matter is, he sits in Qatar today, and he can tell us a bit of what is it like living in Qatar.
So I actually just had this conversation with a friend of mine. He's living in Germany at the moment. He's from Durban as well. Muslim guy, Indian guy. Been mates for a very long time. I play games online with him. That's how I met with him. So he moved to Germany. He had he had one kid just before he moved, and he had one in Germany, and they've been there for about 3 years. And they were visiting SA, and on the way back they came via Qatar, and it is non-visa. Sorry, it's so you don't have to get like a visa on arrival or anything. You just show up as a South African, and we had lunch, and I hadn't seen him in quite a few years, and he was asking about moving here because he feels like Germany's become a bit hostile towards immigrants. And he was actually telling me a story, funny enough, about he took his son to the hospital, and the doctor was quite rude with him and was, told him, no, you have to speak German to us, etc., etc. And then when the doctor looked at his forms and they saw that they're South African, he changed his whole tune towards him, started speaking English and everything. And I think it's just a bit indicative about how the Germans are feeling about brown people as immigrants, or illegal immigrants, should I say, and how they've, the situation that's going on in Europe with illegal immigration. So he feels a little bit, aggrieved, and he wants to move. And obviously Qatar being a primarily sort of Islamic nation, it's very much one of his options. Also, his wife's a teacher, a very good place to be a teacher, income-wise, etc. So I was actually telling him that, strangely enough, you're going to experience more of that here, right? If not worse, because the racism's quite open here. Like let's not. I don't want to. I'm not disparaging the country. It's a nice place. I love living here. But one of the things I said to him was like, I don't actually work here. I have a business that's in SA, and we in the process of just setting up another business that is going to be importing food. The business I told you with Yaku, and they're moving the kitchen to Benoni, back to his old place. I think you're frozen there. What happened there?
No.
Sitting very still. I was like, no, there's no smoke coming off your cigarette either. We're in the middle of doing that. I'll actually go into that a little bit later. It's actually quite a cool business that we're running here, or that we're setting up. And I have another business in South Africa as well. And I travel. I'm going back next week. I travel quite often back to SA, especially to Joburg. And I said to him, I'm like, I can't tell you. My wife could tell you about the working culture, but there's a big part of the Qatar experience that I can't explain to you as someone who wants to come and work and live here, because I don't have to work with people. I work on the phone, and I work behind my computer the whole day, and then I'm free to do a lot of stuff. Like I go fetch my daughter from school, or we go and do stuff, and it's like I'm not having experience, So for me, it's been really cool. Like it's a hard thing to say, for someone who's thinking of moving here. I'm not the best person to give you advice, but for me, it's been really nice. The safety is untouched. Sorry, yeah.
Just give me a moment. I want to say something, and then you can tell me whether I'm right or wrong. Look, I've spent a lot of time in Kuwait and in Abu Dhabi between 2002 and 2009. I went through 3 Ramadans there. As far as Qatar is concerned, I only went through Qatar twice on flight, because they arranged different flights and we were flying Air Qatar. Usually we fly Emirates, then I go through Dubai, but on Qatar, obviously, no. Now, the thing is this. I wouldn't say that I experienced racism there. But what I did notice is that it is a natural thing for them people naturally understand all people are not the same. That's it. So it's not so much racism, but it is just the case that they understand different tribes, different vibes.
Look, for a long time, I fully agree with you, right? Like but it's also a very two-tiered society, right? Like the Qataris are here, and then I think maybe the other Gulf Arabs are there, and then the rest of us fall into other little layers.
It's the same thing in Kuwait. It's the same thing in Kuwait.
100%. It's a little bit less severe in UAE because of how westernized it has become. That is according to my friend who's working in Abu Dhabi, who was 7 years in Qatar, and then she's teaching in Abu Dhabi. It's a little bit more sort of in line with, Western social norms, if that's the right way to put it. But there's a very like unspoken, sort of undertow of what happens here, and I read a lot of I look on the Qatar subreddit quite a lot, and like there's always a lot of complaints, especially from the South Asian, like Indian, Bangladeshi, Pakistani. Those are your sort of biggest population groups here. There's more than double as many Indians as there are Qataris.
Yeah.
So like I think there's what 700,000 Indians, almost 800,000. There's only like 300 something thousand Qataris. So the Indians would generally here originally for sort of like the migrant, like the manual labor, and then there's obviously a lot of Indian professionals as well, but your basic laborers are South Asian, mainly. There's a few African people, a lot of people from Kenya, but you get that sort of, I don't know, that kind of like sort of classist and racial discrimination. But from what I've experienced, and this is, it's a lot of people have their backs up about it already, and they're already in, and this is from other people's working experience as well, that have told me that people go into a situation already expecting the worst, and sometimes the racism really isn't there. It's kind of being manufactured, by the people who perceive themselves to be victims in the situation, which is, I mean, it's quite familiar. There's no outright discrimination where, I've heard of things like groups of Indian men aren't allowed in certain places. They say it's like families only. But I've been to those places during those times by myself. My wife and my daughter were inside and no one stopped me. But I think they look at your they listen to you speak and they hear your nationality and whatever. And it's just like a soft sort of barrier that they put up. But there's a fair amount of that. And I mean, my friend being Indian, like, people aren't going to assume he's South African. That was the conversation I had with him. I was like, no one's going to look at you and think, oh, that guy's South African off the bat, especially when there's 700,000 people from India. Yeah. That look very similar to you. So it was just it was actually, but what are you trying to get away from in Germany? I mean, you've got a good life there. You guys have been able to survive on one income for years, which is something you were never able to do in South Africa with 2 children. And, what are your job prospects, etc. It's a tough conversation, man. It's like, it's a tough decision to move out here. I personally like it. I think it's really cool. I think, once you can get around certain things, get your mind around, like, the modesty and the dress code. I've been turned away from places for wearing shorts. You can't go to the doctor if you're wearing shorts. Like, you can be sick as hell, but they'll tell you to come back and put long pants on. So there's certain things that are just a little bit strange. Like, I went to get a blood test and I literally had to go back the next day. It was for my government ID. And I had to go back the next day to give blood for the test because I was wearing shorts. It was like 40 degrees, and it was, I hadn't been exposed to the weather so much. So once you can get past that, she's like the safety, leaving your stuff on your deck chair while you go swim in the ocean, on the beach, your phone, whatever, like, nothing's going to happen to it. I went to withdraw some money the other day, and they've got like 500 real notes, right, which are like 2,500 rand each, one note. And I was just thinking, geez, what if one of these like blew out of my pocket because I was walking? And the actually thought occurred to me is like, someone would pick it up and come and find me and be like walk behind me and say, listen, you dropped this money. Like, it's such a high trust society. It's a nice, I don't get to miss South Africa because I go back so often, but that's been the biggest thing for me, especially having a small
Can I
child.
interrupt you on this one?
No, go for it.
Wait, the first sensation I had on my first trip to Kuwait, after being in the city there for about 4 hours, is that weird sense of safety that you feel. You don't feel threatened at all. And that was for me.
The cars on the road are probably the biggest threat to your life.
Yeah. Tell me, okay, Reiner, you've sent me some stuff on Twitter, and that is why I want you here, because I like your Twitter comments. I'm going to share the screen. You must just tell us a little bit of the background about the tweet. Let me get it on.
Oh, no, these were just some of the ones I found to be quite funny.
Yeah. I understand. Let me just get the first one on, and you tell us what the hell is going on there. Let me get it up.
She's so.
You want me to put the sound on for you?
This is crazy. I don't know. I'm not quite sure of the context in its entirety of what's going on here, but what it looks like is people are having a big jaw on Clifton. This is like Clifton Beach, and if I look at some of the comments, right, people are talking about, what about people's houses and the people that go there for like a good time, and it's kind of it's a weird, there's obviously people that are upset, right? And I'm looking at one comment here that says, "What do you mean the fall of society? Is it wrong to have fun now? Come on, bro. You're better than that." But I mean, that's also a very sort of obtuse take on the whole thing, right? Because it's quite clear that it's antisocial behavior. That's not welcoming. That's not a very welcoming sight. It's you there with your children. It's rowdy. People are drinking. It's loud. It's debaucherous, right? So what do you?
I see the white lion. I know him quite well, Vitoslav Linovsky. He reckons, why do you also have to scream?
I feel like some of it is, it's one thing to want to have fun, but I feel like a part of it is like a bit of a spiteful action. Like, what kind of place you're going to, and what kind of energy you're bringing to it. So you do this intentionally to provoke a response because you want someone to say something, you want someone to make a video, you want someone to do. A guy I knew from Durban, Warren Blakeman, made a Facebook post about, Margate down the south coast in KZN. Yeah, so it was just after New Year's, and the place was like looking trashed. And he made some post about, it looks like monkeys have been here or something like that. And it was similar to that penny sparrow thing. And like people were sending him death threats. And then some idiot goes and opens like a fake Twitter account in his name to make like further sort of racial comments just to stoke the flames of it, and it's a similar thing. You're waiting for someone to say something. That's what I feel like. It's like you're provoking it. You want it to be, like when they slaughtered, do you remember a few years ago they slaughtered a lamb or something on the same beach there? I think that's Camps Bay, or is it Clifton? It could be Camps Bay.
I think it was Camps Bay.
Yeah, I think it was they slaughtered a lamb on the beach as if to say, like, what can you do about this kind of thing? And it's like, I thought you don't want the division, but you're now looking for ways to provoke it. And it's because, they know there's going to be a reaction, right? They know there's going to be outcry. It's going to be media. It's going to be Twitter trending, etc.
All right. Tell me about this one that I've got on the screen there.
This story blew my mind. It says this gentleman was wanted by SAPS for allegedly raping and murdering a 6-year-old girl. I live in Hellland. It's like, you've got this guy's identity. Why is he just roaming the streets?
Yeah.
And we spoke that, there was such a big outcry about that pig farming incident, and we still hear about that guy who nailed someone into a coffin.
Yeah.
And I actually tweeted about it, and I was like, you'll hear about those instances forever, but no one talks about this, like raping and murdering a 6-year-old child.
Yeah. No, that is a bolsap word. Okay, let me see what else you have.
These were. This was a bit of a informative one. They announced today that yesterday they're putting Starlink on Qatar Airways flights.
Yeah, just let me get to it. Let me put it on the screen for the people. There it
Also,
is.
it's Elon having a video call with a couple of gents. They look like they're sitting in first class on a Qatar Airways flight. Apparently, in the next couple of months, they're going to be rolling out free internet. I thought it was going to be quite expensive, but I've been on the Qatar, like, sort of social media pages, like Qatar Living, etc. They're talking about this being free for all passengers.
Okay. Yeah, because I spoke to Francois when he was traveling to Moscow. And he said to me, he can't send me any images or voice or video because then he has to pay some ridiculous amount of money for that connection. But just for the text connections, that was part of his flight.
I think that's on like Turkish Airlines. They charge you per megabyte. And it is unbelievably expensive. But on Qatar, it's $10 and you can be online for the whole flight.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you're not in business class, which it's included, and I think if you have to be on a certain level of the membership, like silver or gold or something, and you get free Wi-Fi as well. But yeah, the Qatar is quite consistent with Wi-Fi, whereas Turkish, it's not every plane.
All right. Talk to me about this one.
This one was hilarious because there's a Bureau cartoon depicting, Julius Malema as sort of a captain on a sinking ship, the ship named the EFF, and a bunch of rats in red overalls jumping off the side. And yeah, it's a funny depiction of what's actually happening. Paulie van Wyk, the journalist, she tweeted it, and so many people have chosen to take the racial angle with this as well. It's hilarious.
Look at that one.
The depiction of black people as rats is appalling. I'm sure if I go into the quotes here, right?
Can you see what I've got on the screen for you now?
Yeah. Let me see that one. It says, "Don't insult. This is purely reserved for efforts. You're special and not in a good way." Oh my God.
Look at that one.
Hey, people are using that grok to its full potential, at least. This is disgusting racial undertones. There's so many. A whole journalist and a racist journalist.
Look at what White Line says.
Let me see that one. You call us pink pigs all the time, but we never complain about it. Oh. But I mean, is this ignorance about it? So here's another thing, right? Is this ignorance to the concept of an idiom, or is this willful ignorance? Because, when they talk about singing "Kill the Boer," it's a symbol, then everyone can see it. No, it's not literal, it's figurative. But I mean, is that the same? How do we forget that concept now when it comes to this?
Listen, look at that one.
I'm not sure how it being a saying makes its weaponization by racist not racist. This depiction is racist. I think when you want to believe something, you'll make sure you figure out how to make it true, right?
Look at what Nduna says.
Racist. I'm looking at some of these other ones. Some people don't really take it. It says Floyd with some black people just went with the actual metaphor and was saying Floyd with swimming fins.
Yeah. Look at what Ammo says.
Those rats are white. Escaping. Either way, rats have been always been escaping from sinking boats. It's not racial. Yeah, look. Yeah, I think like I said before, it's some people just they know what's going to get them attention online.
Okay, look at that one. That's one that you gave me.
Oh yes, this I found hilarious. AfriForum is a CIA-sponsored organization to destabilize Africa, as if Africa needed to be destabilized.
Yeah, I see Smirre responded and said Africa doesn't need an organization to stabilize it. It is unstable continent from its own people. Yeah, Rainer.
Yeah,
And this one I found this to be quite hilarious.
this was where it originated from. That last one, right? It says cutting grass for free in Toronto. There's some sort of MOU in place between AfriForum and the city. Excuse me. I don't know if you know Marcel on Twitter, Marcel ZA.
No, I don't know him.
He's quite funny. Him and I are like he talks to me on WhatsApp and stuff. We chat sometimes, and he was telling me that AfriForum like takes care of quite a bit of maintenance in his area. He lives in Pretoria East or something. I don't know. Sorry if I gave away your location. He lives in Pretoria somewhere, or I'm assuming East because that's the nice part, right? But he's. I hope no one finds him because he said some pretty inflammatory things on Twitter himself. He says that AfriForum have been maintaining quite a lot of the sort of visual, like the grass and whatever else, and they take care of like broken street lights and that kind of stuff, and they do it for free. Well, they do it from the AfriForum membership, and I think people are looking for a way to get some tenders in.
Tell us about this one.
Oh, this was Kabelo Gwamanda. He's the mayor of Joburg who was allegedly faked his death after scamming quite a few people out of money. I think it was like a funeral plan scam or something like that he pulled.
Yeah, it was a funeral plan scam.
Yeah, it was a bunch of sort of community members that are obviously not very well off that trusted him with their money. And they said the directors of the company were dead. And then this guy's coming out here making some heartfelt appeal to people saying that, growing up black, it's a possibility that none of us can afford regardless of the path you choose. Basically having a run-in with law enforcement. Like, no, I think if you choose to be a criminal, that's kind of like the path that you choose, right?
I can't understand it. That scam happened in 2011, 2012. But they still elected this guy as the mayor of Joburg. Can you hear me?
They did. Yes, sorry, man. They did elect him. Oh, fuck my. You know what they also said is that they. Sorry, I don't know what happened now. Speaker. I'm just changing my headphones here quickly. There we go. That should be. Hello.
Okay.
Okay. No, wait. That's better. So they said that they vetted him. The ANC said that they vetted the guy. I mean, when they said they vetted him, they checked if he was insolvent and if he had a criminal record. Or you can be neither of those things if you're dead.
Okay. Talk to me about this one that you have on the screen there.
Yeah, look, Big Daddy Liberty. I've not. I mean, I've had one or two negative encounters with him, a couple of arguments, but I can't think of anyone I haven't had an argument with on Twitter. But yeah, I think this was. I don't know why this was a controversial appointment by John Stienes, and I don't know if he's considered a race traitor or not an appropriate black person to have in government, but he's fully qualified and quite well experienced, and he's been working for the DA for quite a long time, or he's done a lot of work with the DA over a long time. He's well educated. He's got verifiable qualifications and everything like that. I understand. There was some controversial issues with other appointments, but this one just didn't make sense to me. He's an outreach officer. The guy he's been farming for a number of years as well. I mean, I don't understand how he's unfit for the job. But because
maybe it's just a case of they are looking at what Steenhuisen did to Roman Kavanagh.
Who's still in his job, by the way, who hasn't...
no, I know. I'm waiting.
Hasn't vacated his post.
Yeah, he said he will come onto the show once his shit is sorted out. Because what the people don't understand, many people don't understand it. Roman Kavanagh was a government appointment, and it was not a DA deployment. So, to get rid of Roman, they have to go through the paces. And the last I heard, he said, all right, I'll go. Give me a severance package.
I would have done the same thing.
So that's what we have there. All right.
You wasted the poor guy's time like that, man.
Let's stop this for a moment and let me just have a quick look at what the viewers are saying. And if there's any questions that they would like to pose to you. The guys are screaming for some booze. They say they're a little bit dry. I hope that solves the problem. Let me just see. Look at what Stefan Meiberg says. South Africa is die kakhuis van Brics. And I agree with him. Etienne makes this remark. Kyk hoe Putin vir beesneus kyk, daai rus gaan hom blootsry in sy moer in. Now you are there in the Middle East and the heat is building up, and the guys from the new cons in the shithouse in Washington, there are some of them that are bristling for a fight with Iran, and it's a fight that they're going to lose. And what is the talk on the streets in Qatar about that fuck up in Israel?
So I have a very weird collection of people that I speak to. So one's my barber. One is this nice lady that lives in the hotel that I see walking. She runs on the same route that I run. And they both Lebanese. And one of the things they've both said, one is the lady's Christian and my barber is Muslim. And my wife also works with a bunch of Lebanese people. Some are Druze as well, which I never knew existed until I came here. I didn't know that was a thing. But a lot of them, just from a perspective of people that have family there, like literally, the homes they grew up in, their parents are still living in them, and this sort of thing is going on. And what both of them said was quite interesting. One, my barber's quite young and he's like a little bit fired up. And this lady, her name's Sibel, she's a lot more like, mature and relaxed and kind of seeing things like holistically. And both of them both said the same thing: is that we want to be free of Hezbollah, but we don't want to be liberated by Israel.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not. I mean, to me, this is not like the UEFA Champions League final. Like, I'm not supporting anyone. It's like, this is quite a nasty situation, and on both sides. I'm not saying I condone anything that Hamas or Hezbollah have done, but at the same time, it's a violence. There's real people there. Like we were talking about my friend. We'll get into it, about my friend who was on the front lines of Ukraine, and telling, when you hear the stories from someone who's there, watching people get blown up and turned into red mist, and when you're seeing these maimed and injured people, it's like you take a sort of step out of the whole, who you want to win, and they can take this city and they can do that. So when they're doing all of these strategic things that people say they must do, there's people that are losing their lives.
Yeah.
There's people that are losing their homes. There's children that are just, their future. There's no chance of a future, either due to injury, becoming an orphan, dying. So like it's hard to get behind it and be so like vehemently in opposition to or in support of either of the sides, because regardless of what happens, innocent people are going to die. So to me it's like, it's a hard thing. Look, another thing in Qatar, if you're asking about the mood on the street, is that Al Jazeera also has its own very clear bias in reporting.
Yeah.
And it's very, very obvious where it comes from and what it's trying to push. Just like CNN has its own reporting bias, and so does.
I want to interrupt you. I don't really pay attention to Al Jazeera, because my experience from Al Jazeera is that they, on every topic, they pick a narrative and that's what they stick to. You don't get the feeling that they give you objective opinions and objective views and objective people that they talk to and so forth. So I see them in the same class as CNN.
Yeah, I think many years ago they were seen as like a bit more of a balanced reporting outlet. Yeah. I mean, the same can go for CNN, right? Like, it was the gold standard of news coming out of America for many years. I remember watching the Bush election in 2000, but I always got the feeling they were pushing that Al Gore was like the good guy and George Bush was the bad guy, kind of thing, very subtly, not as bad as they do it now. But yeah, I think even the gold mafia expose that they did, they've been awarded they've been ordered to pay $2 million to one of the Zimbabwean officials for defamation. They were found liable in court. So it's $2 million US that they have to pay the guy, not $2 million Zim dollars. But it just goes to show, like, so someone's theory, someone actually tweeted about it, and someone else wrote a theory underneath saying that it's a way for Qatar to sort of, how would you say, defame or show the sort of Dubai gold bullion in a bad light as they sort of competing. But it could be any number of reasons, right, why they did that. But I think that was the last thing I ever watched on Al Jazeera, was the whole gold mafia expose. But yeah, if you want to get the feeling, obviously, there's a lot of people who see it as a tribal thing. It's like it's us Muslims versus them. A lot of people hate Israel. A lot of people don't care. One thing I can tell you is you're not allowed to demonstrate and protest and be in the streets and be waving your Palestine flags. You'll get sent home very quickly. if not to jail?
Well, you know, the problem and this is the problem that we have with the mainstream media. It has now reached the point that you don't believe basically anything they say.
No, you can't.
And
When
I
that
think,
rocket strike happened, I tried to keep open, like, sorry to interrupt you, but I had like 3 different news channels running it live. And Sky was interviewing Israeli people, CNN was interviewing American people, and Al Jazeera's headline, or the title of their live stream, was Israel claims to have been attacked. Like, kind of like in a, and it's like, it's very subtle what you're doing, but it's very obvious as well.
yeah, it's a bloody problem, man.
Sorry, I interrupted you. I was talking about mainstream media there.
No. It's not an interruption. The fact of the matter is that we have to accept that the mainstream media are not objective.
Oh, no,
They are not interested in giving us facts. They're giving us narrative, and they are pushing a propaganda. And that's what they do. And I mean, if you look at the ridiculousness of how they report on the same incident in the Western media and how it's reported in the rest of the world, you can't believe it's the same incident that they're talking about. And that is something that really pisses me off. And now you've got a problem, Rainier. You've got a bloody problem. There's a lot of people that are totally addicted to the mainstream narrative. And you come on a program like mine, and I give facts that is contrary to what they believe. And they immediately call me a liar. Or they get angry with me. They're not angry with the mainstream media that's been lying to them. They're angry with me for telling them about the lie. I've got a friend that is in France, and I haven't read the article yet, but he sent me this tweet, this WhatsApp, just before the show started. And it is from Middle East Eye. I actually quite like that Middle East Eye. And he said, before Israel was founded in 1948, there were 3 Zionist militias, Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi. They carried out terror attacks, bombing and assassinations in Palestine to usher in a Jewish state by any means. I was not aware of that.
That's quite hectic. Jeez.
So they were already operating before the Balfour thing and all of that. So, I take a lot of shit for my viewpoint, and I don't give a shit. I've got a theme song. Maybe it's time that I play the theme song again. I haven't played it in many, many days. Just a reminder, and I think you will like this one quite a lot, because let me just get to it. Let me play you verse 1. I think you will like it.
I tried, and I tried even more. I cried, and I can't recall what for. I pressed, I pushed, I yelled and begged in hopes of some success. But the inevitable fact is that it never will impress. I've no more fucks to give, my fucks have run dry. I've tried to go fuck shopping, but there's no fucks left to buy. I've no more fucks to give, the more fucks I've tried to get. I'm over my fuck budget and I'm now in fucking debt.
That's my theme song.
100%. I think you reach a point where you stop caring about pleasing everyone. So here's a question for you.
Yeah.
Would you? So there's a lot of talk, and I don't want to say something too controversial because I don't know how I feel about it either. But about 6-7 years ago, I went down this rabbit hole about the Holocaust, and how the details were changed, and the Red Cross reports don't match up with like the numbers that they say died, and they changed the plaque outside Auschwitz from 4 million to 1 point something. I mean, 1 million people, still 1 million people, right? But why the need? Why it's a horrific thing. Like, why the rush to inflate the numbers? Why? Also,
you know what? Let me answer you on that one.
Yeah,
I actually had a chat about that. We talked about it in one of the Boerbeskuit. I can't remember if it was Saturday night or what. The fact is this. Those Zionist Khazarian Jews sitting there in Israel, they have driven a fucking strong campaign since 1944 that gives them the sole right to be the victim. No one else can be a victim. They can bomb a Palestinian tent hospital and burn the people and the children there that is lying there on drips, but they are still the victims. So they have got this almost, one can say, this universal sole proprietorship of being a victim. Does that? I showed the picture one night in one of the chats. I showed a picture. At a stage, a long time ago, I don't know if you remember that movie that was made, Schindler's List.
Oh, yeah.
At that stage, I had a friend he moved to America, and he was on the technical side of the movie, doing the research and so forth. And he said to me that in the thousands of interviews and letters and photographs and stuff that they went through, they could never find a single shred of evidence of a tattoo, because all those guys that went into the concentration camps were tattooed on their arms. Their numbers were tattooed on the arm. And they could never find a person with a tattoo of more than 5 digits.
That's fucking interesting.
And that is a fact. When I was living in Dundee, my house doctor, a German guy, his dad was a doctor during World War II in Germany. And he said to me, if you take the number of Jews that were in Europe at that stage, for the Germans to kill 6 million would it would have meant that every Jewish woman in Europe must have had, I think he said, 7 children in 3 years
Jesus.
to get to the numbers. Now you see a lot. And then I see images that was published by a Russian publication that Auschwitz, where they had that, you know, that image of the ovens.
The death camp.
And they showed the image of the ovens when the Russians took the camp over. And then they showed the image a few months later where there was chimney stacks built onto those ovens. And he said, okay, what was the story there? And they said that those ovens were pisswilly ovens. They were never built to be cremation ovens. They were built to burn the lice-infected bedding and clothing of the prisoners. That's what they were built for. And the Russians modified it to make it possible to use it as cremation ovens as well. And then the guy said something very interesting. And he said, and he showed a publication that was published by the Nazi regime, in which they said that in one of those camps, I can't remember which one, the cremation ovens can now handle, listen to this, they have now the capacity in all the cremation, all the concentration camps, they can now in total cremate 36 corpses per day. Now,
it would have taken a hell of a long time to cremate 1 million
that's
people.
what he said. He said now all he can say is that these deniers can obviously, they are also not good with arithmetic. Because if you take 6 million, divide by 36, it will mean they would have still been busy burning today. Now, that is the type of shit that, but that's the narrative the Zionists are pushing. And if you say anything against that, you're an anti-Semite, and I don't know what the fuck you are, but I play them, I don't give a fuck song of mine, and that's the end of the story. Because there is so much bullshit that has been fed to us right now that you cannot. You see, I said it in one of my skid marks, I think. Whenever you show a picture of a Gaza home that has been bombed, the standard response from the Zionist side is, yeah, Hamas is shooting rockets into Israel. Now I'm saying, okay, if that was then so violent and true, and there were incidents of Israeli homes being blown up and the children had to try and dig their parents out of the rubble, those videos would be on the media every day, the whole day.
Yeah, of course.
But you don't see anything like that. Why not?
It's the same thing with 9/11, right?
Yeah.
You hear about 3,000 people dying on 9/11. How many people died on 9/11? Is it 3,000? 3,000, 3,500 or something?
Something like that.
I mean, how many people did they bomb afterwards?
Yeah. Millions. I mean,
millions. If you add Afghanistan and Iraq together, right?
Yeah.
Like,
But
a huge amount of money. People.
What is that woman's name? Madeleine Albright. The journalist asked her and said to her straight, what about the 500,000 Iraqi children that were killed? And you know what her answer is? It was a difficult decision, but it was worth it.
I mean, but you lied. Like, you flat out lied. to invade the country, right? Like it was
Yeah.
bold,
Look,
barefaced lie. You can't say we worked with the evidence we had, because you can't have evidence for something that didn't exist at
exactly.
any
I mean,
point.
Scott Ritter talks about it a lot. He talks a lot about it a lot. I mean, he lost his job. He was pushed out of his job because he insisted there was no WMDs in Iraq. The other night I listened to him and they were talking about the Iron Dome. And he said, man, that fucking Iron Dome is a plastic dome. He said, they told us that they built that thing to shoot down Scud missiles from Saddam. And then they made stories in the press that they shot down Scuds. At that stage, he was still in Iraq. And he said, I went to Israel and I said, show me the remnants of the Scuds that you have shot down. Show me. And he said they couldn't show him anything. So that is the type of fucking lies that we have to live with.
Look, I'm under no. I have no doubt that Hitler had a very strong agenda against the Jews, and he rounded them up and he tried to start hate. So just to answer this question, there is freedom of religion, yes. On a Friday, sorry, I had to pull my Afrikaans out. Thankfully, my mother is from the Cape. So on a Friday, our weekend is Friday and Saturday, right? So like our week ends tomorrow. Like tomorrow's our Friday. So on a Friday, it's obviously Jummah, which is like the holy day of worship. Everyone has the day off and whatever. You have a prayer at like midday. People have their church services at midday. There's a Catholic church. I mean, I can find it on Google Maps. I can show it to you. There's a Catholic church like maybe 7 k's down the road. People think that it's like some big, they're burning Bibles and shit. There's none of that fucking shit going on here, man. Like, I had the best Christmas of my life here. Like, we had, it was insane. Like, the one day we took my daughter to make gingerbread houses at some hotel. A lot of the stuff happens in hotels, these big resorts, and they have like events and stuff like that. There's church services on Christmas Day if you can get off work. It's not a holiday. Because it's just Eid is a holiday, right? Like, it's an Islamic country, so you'll get your like 3-4 days off. A lot of companies close for the whole week. You are free to follow whatever religion. The Muslims aren't like an overwhelming majority. Most of the people are Indian, that are here. Like, there's a lot of Westerners, a lot of Hindu people, and Hinduism. Geez, if anything is opposite to Islam, it's Hinduism, right? Like, I don't know if you know what the Shahada is. It's like when you repeat those words and you become a Muslim. And the first word is, I bear witness that there's only one God. And like, that is the opposite of, Hindus believe in multiple gods, right? And they think that, it goes against the whole thing of monotheism. So if they can allow Hindu people here to have the freedom of what they want, of their religion, like, it's 100% okay. Look, someone was complaining about a Christmas display in the malls. A Qatari person complained, and people shut them down. Other Qatari people shut them down. And we're like, hey, listen, these people live here with us. They built this country. Like, they respect Ramadan. They respect. We don't eat in public in Ramadan. It's not okay. No. Like, you don't eat in public. You don't drink water in public. You don't smoke cigarettes in public. You come home and you can do it if you're not Muslim, but they show it enough respect for us as well. They 100% do. I don't know if there's any synagogues.
Is there freedom of speech?
That's my next point. There is, to an extent. Like, if you're going to be overly disparaging about the country, the royal family, the way things are run, if you're going to speak too harshly about it. We were actually at some of my wife's work colleagues on the weekend for lunch, and they were saying that there was some. So in India, because they were both Indian couple, in India, the Indian government like sort of took sides with Israel over something, and there was some issue where Qatar was mentioned, and is his name Mehdi or Modi? The
Modi.
Indian Modi, yeah. He spoke out against Qatar about something, and some Indian people like came out and showed their support for Qatar and said, no, this guy's wrong. They deported them. They were like, yeah, cool, you can have an opinion, but like don't come and make a demonstration about it. There was a big, you know what happened in Bangladesh recently with the president, like, you know, they kicked her out. They like, they had like a little mini coup in Bangladesh, and she fled to India, and they organized the protest here. I'm not sure exactly where, but the people, so they deported a whole bunch of people, like 60 people or something like that, and the 6 instigators got given life in prison. And like the protest happened 2 weeks later, these people were in jail, convicted, everything. They deported some students, I think it was UAE, for shouting "Free Palestine" at like an event. They were chanting "Free Palestine." They rounded them up and they canceled their visas and kicked them out the country. Like, you can support and you can hold these views, and the country, like, also remember the country is also playing peacemaker, right? So you can't give off the idea that it's a hostile place for certain people or whatever. So you can have your views, but you can't disrupt public peace.
Okay.
It's a very complicated question. It's not, you can't, there's freedom of speech, but you know, you can't be an activist or anything like that. Like, especially if you're a foreigner.
All right. I think that is a good answer.
Yeah, look, I mean, my daughter's au pair, very lovely ex-au pair, when I came here for holiday, lovely Afrikaans lady. She's very religious though, very Christian. And she asked us, she's like, oh, do they even have Christmas when you went there? And I was like, yeah. Because people's got like a really bad impression of the place.
Well, you know, the thing is this. I think that a lot of people tend to take preconceived ideas, and then they make those ideas their own and they live with it as if that is the truth. And that is a big problem, because when I was in Kuwait, and as I said, I spent a lot of time there, I never once encountered any situation in which I felt hostility towards my Christianity. Never. And what I've said to a guy the other night, one of the things that impressed me the most in Kuwait and in Abu Dhabi is the amount of respect that the people have for other people.
Yeah.
Do you find the same thing there in Qatar?
Especially from the Qataris. I think, yeah, you get, they really appreciate, should I say, they really value family. You know, your children get treated really well. My daughter fainted at the beach one day, and I had to carry her all the way across the road back to the hotel. And this Qatari guy like helped me, you know, and he was like, oh, is she okay? Is she fine? Came and knocked on my apartment door, and was like a few minutes later, and was like, and he wasn't even working here or anything. He's like a guest. And I just find that, like, yeah, it's a very family oriented place. They've very strong family values in the culture. If anything, if you have any negative experiences, they usually with other foreigners. And this is the thing, right? This is not like Europe or America, well, how it used to be, right? Where the selection criteria, you know, people coming in qualified, scarce skills. There's a lot of people that come here as sort of migrant workers that are unskilled laborers and uneducated, and they import everything here, from the cleaners all the way to the directors of certain companies, etc. So you get a much more rounded view of immigrants. You get people, not only well-educated people, not only people from a certain profession or income bracket that are here. And if you have any negative experiences, which are very few and far between, it's generally with people that are sort of very culturally opposed and very sort of socio from a different part of the socio-economic sort of structure as well. But never from local people. Never, ever.
In Kuwait, for instance, their whole, let's call it, low-level workforce was Filipinos.
It's a lot here as well.
And
more in hospitality, though.
Also living in an area, specific area. They were all living together. And my host told me that one night, and we were just laughing, the Filipinos started getting upset about something, and they wanted, they started protesting in the streets on their suburb where they were. And I asked my host, I said, okay, well, what did the government do? He said, no, the Minister of Interior came out and said, listen, if you don't quiet down, you will be over candles. And I laughed about it, I said, what do you mean over candles? He said, well, he just switched the electricity off. So, the thing is this, that I've said it many times. If you look at what happened in the beginning of the balls up in Ukraine, the European Union, they sent a woman to go and talk to the Crown Prince of Saudi. And I said, now, if you know anything about cultures, you will understand that the Arabian world specifically is extremely patriarchal. It's a male dominant society. And to send a woman to go and talk to the Prince of Saudi about a political fuck up, it's a stillborn. Because
it's a lack of respect as well.
Yeah, exactly.
But you could also look at it as sort of the European Union as posturing up, like we'll send you a woman, like we want to show you, but we don't.
And then they were so clever, they sent von der Leyen, and hot on her heels, they sent that chick from Germany,
Angela Merkel.
Annalena Baerbock, they sent her. What the hell? How do you think you're going to succeed in so a society wat, my heerlikheid man, dit is 'n paternistiese society. Nou dink jy, nou kom daai van der Leyen daar in Saudi en sy maak so 'n fucking demands. Ek dink by myself, wat 'n bliksem dink sy gaan in daai prins se kop aan terwyl hy vir haar kak sit te luister.
Also remember that they contribute a hell of a lot to the country's wealth, right? Like, remember, you can say all you want and you can be a big fan of whoever, you can be supporting Hamas or whatever, but like the gas from here gets sold to the West. The sanctions on the West, on Russia, have helped these people become even wealthier, right? Because of all the gas. Then they're now looking at ways to supply gas to mainland Europe. That was used to be Russia's biggest client. So the same with Aramco and all of that. Like, yes, you can call the shots, but you can also, they also know that they've got you in a way, like they know that it's almost like it's the hand that feeds you indirectly. And I think they lean on that.
Well, okay, Rainier, we're going at hour 26. I want to say thank you. It was
No,
nice
thank you for
talking
having
to you. No, it's a pleasure. You have fun there in Qatar and enjoy your evening. Thank you for your contribution. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm in South Africa next week. I'll give you a shot.
Okay, sleep
All
tight.
right.
Nou ja, daar was het nou. Rainier het nou 'n bietjie met ons gesels oor sy dinge. Ek en hy chat nogal heelwat op Twitter en hy het baie keer hy het nogal die vermoë om van daai regtige ridiculous tweets uit te haal en kyk, as julle dink I don't give a fuck, hy gee ook nie 'n fuck nie hoor. Hy vat hulle almal aan. En ja, maar nou ja, dit was vir my nou 'n lekker chat gewees. Ek sien die mense in die geselskap is meer besig om met mekaar te praat as oor die goed wat ek en hy oor gepraat het, maar dit is ook reg so hoor. Dit is soos dit moet wees. Ek wil net kyk of hier nou ietsie important is wat ek dalk gemis het. En ja, Leon, ek het daai video gesien waarna jy verwys waar hulle gesê het al die Palestynë moet gee pad daar. Maar die feit van die saak bly is, ek het baie tyd gespandeer in Kuwait en in Abu Dhabi en ek het nie op enige stadium ooit enige negativiteit gevoel teenoor die feit dat ek 'n Christen is nie. En wat my die meeste beïndruk het van daai mense was die hoeveelheid respek wat hulle vir ander mense het. Okay. Hier het ons nou weer ou wat reken Brics en die globalists werk saam. Dit lyk my hy het nog nie gelees wat dit donder Putin met die globalists aangevang het nie. So ek neem aan hy sal seker gaan lees nou na dit. My 5 punts, ek sal moet vir Rainier vra, wat is die hooftaal wat hulle daar praat, maar jy moet verstaan, daai Arabiese lande, daar om die Gulf, die UAE en Qatar en Kuwait en so, soos wat ek dit opgetel het, hulle praat met mekaar. Iemand het vir my gesê, daar is effens 'n streek dialekte, maar hulle verstaan mekaar, hulle praat met mekaar, hulle verstaan mekaar. En so ja, maar ek sal 'n bietjie by hom hoor wat is sy ervaring van dit. Ek weet daar was sekere van die vergaderings wat ek moes bywoon, wat my gas vir my gesê het. Onthou hierdie ouens wat ons nou gaan sien. Hulle kan glad nie Engels praat nie. Okay, daar antwoord Rainier nou. Op die taal. Hy sê, it's Arabic in the mainland for legal purposes, but in business and in court, in the financial district, it is English. Daar het julle dit nou uit die pers se bek uit. Ja, ek het nou geniet om met Rainier te gesels. Dit is vir my belangrik, dat as ons wil kommentaar lewer, oor gemeenskappe en lande, laat ons net seker maak, dat ons, jy weet, praat met ouens wat die ding verstaan, of ouens wat daar is, of ouens wat eerstehandse kennis het, wat sovoorts, want jy kan so baie maklik 'n verkeerde idee kry van wat regtig aangaan. Ek meen, hierdie ding wat Hugo vir my vroeër verand stuur, ek sal nou later bietjie die ding gaan in detail kyk, waar hy verduidelik dat daar voor daai Joodse immigrante so in massa Palestina Palestina toe gestuur is en dit nou Israel geword het, was daar alreeds 3 Zionist militia groepies daar in operation wat voorbrand gemaak het vir die aankoms van die groot gang. Dit was vir my nogal interessant om dit te hoor. Okay, dan sê nou hier 'n baie belangrike ding. Die Jode haat ons meer as die moslems. Die DA het vandag dit baie duidelik gemaak. Nou, ek weet nou nie na watter ding van die DA verwys hy nie, maar in general gaan ek nou weer vir julle sê. Ons het 'n moerse probleem. Ons gewone mense het 'n moerse probleem. Die fucking XXX bende met hulle minions die DA is in kontrol van die land se finansiële environment. En hulle is anti-Brics. Nou, moet jy baie mooi verstaan. Die Weste is besig om hulle gat finansiëel te sien. Ek het nou net voor die show begin het ek 'n artikel gesien, ek het nie gelees nog nie. Japan is besig om te duik en hulle stuur af op 'n ekonomiese kollaps. So die hele Weste en Japan is financially gefok. Waar aan die ander kant die Brics lande en die ouens wat wil in Brics in, se ekonomie is almal besig om te groei. So, verstaan baie mooi. As ons toelaat dat die DA Suid-Afrika se situasie in Brics opfok, gaan ons almal moeheid betaal daarvoor. Moeheid gaan ons betaal. Ek weet nie wat is die storie nie. Hierdie politicians, die fucking spesie moet in mineshafts afgaan. Hulle is besig om kak te maak. Hulle verteenwoordig nie ons nie. Hulle verteenwoordig XXX. En hulle kry helse salarisse op ons tax. En in plaas van om infrastruktuur te bou en die ekonomie en die samelewing te versorg, maak hulle net hulle salarisse al groter en groter. Dit is nie sustainable nie, boys. Ja, Reiner sê dat Qatar is baie meer konservatief as Dubai. Dit is so, ek het dit ook so ervaar in die paar keer wat ek in Qatar was. En dieselfde met Kuwait. Kuwait is baie konservatief. Abu Dhabi is nie so konservatief nie. Nou ja, ons is oor 'n uur en 'n half. Ons nog 251 mense. Die meisies gaan omkom en begin aan mekaar maak. Die kaptein het laat weet. Sy het nog 1 draai om te maak, en dan kom ons in. Maar sy sê, alles is lekker. Ek gaan regtig probeer kyk of ek nie vir ons 'n foto kan kry wat ek vir julle kan share van ons vliegtuig nie, want hier is nou mense wat hierdie vliegtuigie van ons lelik onderskat hoor. En ja, dit was 'n lekker flight gewees. Hoop julle het dit geniet en hoop julle het iets gehoor. Julle moet gaan kyk na daai 2 nuusberigte wat ek vandag gedoen het. Die een oor die een was oor Brics. Ek net seker maak. Nee, die Brics was gister. Ek het vanmiddag een gedoen oor Louis Liebenberg en dan het ek een gedoen oor die Ukrainian recruitment. Julle kan gerus na daai goed gaan kyk. Dit is skokkend hoor. Maar nou ja, laat ek vir ons Kubai videoetjie kry. Ek gaan nou vanaand vir julle 'n backpage speel. En ek wil hê julle moet na die images kyk. Maar wat julle moet baie mooi verstaan. Daardie is alles AI generated images. En let op na die goed wat julle sien. En nou gaan ek vir julle sê, my request aan die AI was net eenvoudig. Ek het heeltyd requests gevra vir refugees en dan die verskillende scenario's beskryf. Ek het nie een keer aangedui wat se etniese groep, wat nie. Dit was net straightforward vir AI gevra. Refugees. En dit is opvallend wat AI uit mee gekom het. Nou ja, daar gaan hy. Daar was dit. So, good night. Goeie man. Hey.